it's funny you said that, because it reminded me of a moment when we all started training together, with that Saturday group, Steve, Kaylee Humphrey, Steve Holcomb, and a couple others. And I remember you paired me and Steve up to do some 40s, and I remember I did a 40 and I came back and I said, how was that? And you kind of gave me some brief details, but then you said, every time you do a stride and you come back, I want you to have a question for me. And I'm like, I don't even talk this much. What do you mean you want me to have a question for you? And I remember doing it for the third time, and I was walking back with Steve. I was like, Steve, what are you going to ask him about? I was going to steal his question. So I was going to steal his, but as I got older, I started to understand why. And that's why I started to ask questions and became pretty inquisitive as an athlete, especially with therapists, because I wanted to understand why certain things was reacting the way it was, and why I felt sore, and why when I do this, I don't feel sore. So I became inquisitive to the process of how do I allow my body to move as completely as it can. One thing is evidence, Stu, is support, right? Support goes a long way in any environment, but it works when everybody's on the same page. And you and I have talked a little bit about, I've spoken a little bit about Dan as well too, and with Greg a little bit as well too, in 2012 with the British team, Dan Paff, and I spoke a little bit with Gordon Bosworth as well too. Those were special games for everybody, from what I understand. What do you remember about that year, and kind of what made it so special for you guys as a team?
Yeah, it was a fantastic time. That was a really key couple years in my life, was the lead up to those games. And I was really lucky that, so when I got over there, I got over there as Dan's assistant. That quickly became, Dan is the coach of all of the field eventers, and the long sprinters. And I was the coach of the short sprinters. And I had total freedom to do whatever I wanted to do with that, which was fantastic and a great learning experience for me. But we had a super group, man. Like, we had a great group of athletes, but also a great group of staff that supported the athletes and supported the coaches. As you mentioned, whether it be Gordon Bosworth or Jerry Ramajita or, Kevin Tyler, who's my business partner now, and Derek Evely and, Glenn Kearney and all of these, Paul Bricey, all these great people. So that's what makes anything great, is the people that you're around at the time. So it's, I'm doing really cool things in a cool place at a cool time leading up to this London Olympic Games with cool people. You can't ask for more than that, right? That's it. Yeah. Cool things, cool place, cool time, cool people. And I had it all there in London for those 2.5 to 3 years I was there. Just a fantastic time. London did an amazing job of putting the games on. You could feel the excitement, the energy of the entire city. We had a really good group of athletes that were competing there. Fortunate enough where Greg, won an Olympic gold medal. So he brought so much buzz and excitement to the entire group and the entire system. Yeah, it's just an amazing time. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it.
When it comes to mistakes, Stu, how have you handled that in your career, right? Because, certain things sit with us a little bit longer. And with criticism, you may say you mishandled this person well, you didn't do a good job with this person could do well with so many things. And there's so many voices that come inside the play. And I've always been a person who says, eventually when you hear something enough times over and over again, parts of that start to trickle in. You start to say, wait a minute, did I do something wrong? Right? How have you handled that over your career when it comes to, maybe criticism, making mistakes and just trying to be better, not only as a coach, but as a person?
Yeah, it's, I'm generally probably genetically somewhat stubborn, somewhat hard-headed. You probably got to beat me over the head a few times. Hey, that's a mistake, for me to finally figure it out. Oh yeah, that was a mistake. You're right. And that's, again, one of the things that we get better at over the course of time. We recognize that a little bit earlier. So that said, there's a few heuristics here. A mistake is an opportunity to learn and just move forward and get better. So as soon as you can recognize that it was a mistake, you recognize that there's an opportunity within that to learn from it and get better and move forward and be a better human or a better coach or whatever it is that you're trying to get better at. So I think I've got a lot better at that over the course of time. I wasn't very good at that in my early career at all, as we sort of talked about. It just becomes about you and you don't understand where you are, where you're fitting within this whole system, right? So that's number one, is just to take those opportunities take those mistakes as opportunities to grow. And secondly, I briefly mentioned this earlier, is we have to grow with positivity. We don't get to live our lives backwards. We can't just, all right, I made a mistake back there, and I'm really going to think about that mistake over and over and over again. Or I made that mistake a few years ago. Like, I'm really good at having a short-term memory around those things, around it being a negative influence in my life, and I just move forward. I'm pretty stoic in that sense, where, okay, it's gone now. So I learn from it and I move forward, and it's in the past. And there's obviously exceptions to those things. And if you've made a significant mistake in your life, and those mistakes are going to haunt you from time to time. They will come back in your memory and say, yeah. But again, that's another opportunity for you to, it's coming back and reminding you that was a mistake, and they don't make that mistake again, learn from it. So I feel like even then, when it does, periodically jump back into my brain, that's just another opportunity for growth for me and for learning from it, to ensure that I do learn from it and move forward. So it's, I think there's two complementary things there, right? One is learning from those mistakes, and second is not really getting so tied down into that mistake that you can't actually move forward. So that's how I try to live things at this point.
Last question, Stu. You've been coaching now for 34, 35 years, something like that. We're just going to round it up, 35, 36, something like that, right?
Yeah. So I started coaching when I was 14. I'm 52, so that's 38. But I really started coaching seriously, in the early 90s. So I said 92. So this is probably 30 years seriously. Yeah. I
got to ask, Stu, man, because, for me, knowing you as earlier and as long as I have to date, I didn't really think you'd be in the game this long, right? What redefines your purpose now at this stage in your life for you to continue doing what you're doing?
Yeah, there's a way to look at that question, and I think it's the wrong way. If you define your purpose as a singular, static thing that doesn't change over time, I think that's the wrong thing. We talk a lot about the importance of finding a purpose. It's not finding a purpose. It's finding purposes, the reasons for doing what you're doing, the purposes for you to being here on this planet, and understanding that you're a dynamical being and you change over time, and your interests change over time, and the people that you hang out with changes over time, and the environment that you exist within changes over time. All of these things are dynamical. So it's for you to expect to have one singular purpose from day one to day a million is not going to happen. So it's, for me, I've always been pretty good at just, all right, I'm a curious person. From curiosity, I believe, comes some sort of creativity. When you're curious about things, you look at ways to expand upon them and transform upon them. And then through that comes some sort of wisdom, ideally at the end. So it's, yes, I've been coaching for a long time, but I coach in different ways. For me, coaching is the ultimate in generalist professions, right? Because you have to know a bunch of different things about a bunch of different things. So there's always opportunities for me to go down these rabbit holes if I'm curious about something. So those have always been there. And then since 2017, well, even earlier, right? So I was a business owner. When I was in Calgary, I had my own business, shared businesses with other colleagues and things. And then since 2017, when I bought Altis, or when me and my business partners bought Altis, now I'm also an entrepreneur and a business owner and a manager of people. So it's not just coaching now. Now it's coaching and all of these other things that I need to get better at. So this whole mix becomes my purpose. And all of these things, what's within all that mix, and how can I become better at that? That's why I'm here.